Hello everyone. Today we'll be talking about how to integrate different software and apps into Slack. We're going to pick 5 apps, which are Jira, GitHub, Jenkins, Travis, and Rollbar. And once you learn how to integrate 3 or 4 apps, you will be able to integrate the rest of the apps very easily, as the way to do it is very similar. With that, I'm going to start with Jira. So I'll go ahead and create a new project in Jira. So let me go ahead and open that in the browser. I'll create the project. I'll call it Power of Slack. And I will click Create Project. And now we have our project created. I will go ahead and integrate it with Slack. And the way to do it is you'll go to Slack and you will click Add Apps and search for the software that you want to integrate with, which is in that case Jira. You will see many apps with that name, but the one that I'm going to use is Jira Cloud. So I'll click that. Then I will go ahead and click Add to Slack. It will ask me for permission, allow that, and it will ask me to log in. Okay, now as you can see, Jira Cloud Zone is now authenticated to my Slack app. So if I went back, you will see the Jira app installed, and you will see some of the commands that I can use with Jira in Slack. So I will go ahead and create a new channel for Jira. And the way to connect Jira to this channel is by using Jira Connect. How did I know that? I knew that because in this app, if I want to see the messages, you'll see the different commands that you can use. This is how you can connect a specific project. And also, as you type the Jira command, you can see the different commands here. So go ahead and type Jira Connect, and I will hit enter. It will ask me which project I want to connect to. I will pick the project that I just created, and I will click Connect. And here we go. Right now, the app is integrated. And to verify this and see what we can do with that, I will go to Jira and I'll create a new issue. I will say do laundry. Imagine if user stories were that easy. Enter. And if I went back to Slack, you will see that the notification was automatically sent to the Slack channel. And you can do things, not just receive notifications, you can actually make changes through Slack. Like for example, right now it's unassigned. I can go ahead and assign it to myself. And that's not the only thing. I can, for example, create a new issue. So if I type Jira, you'll see one of the options is to actually create an issue. And I will call this issue 11037. And it will ask me some of the details of that issue. For example, let's say wash dishes. I will also assign it to myself. And that's it. I will click submit. And if I went back to the Jira page, you will see that the issue was created and it was assigned to me. And it's as simple as that. This is how you integrate Jira with Slack. Now this is done. let's go ahead to the second software or the second website, which is GitHub. And the way that we'll do this is very similar and very easy. So I will go ahead and create a new repository in GitHub to demonstrate that. I'll call this Power of Slack, of course, and I will create the repository. And to integrate it with Slack, we will do almost the same thing. I will go to Add Apps, search for GitHub, and if you work at a company, you will pick the GitHub Enterprise server. Make sure that you pick that if you're using the GitHub Enterprise. But since this is a personal project, I will click GitHub instead. I will click Add to Slack and Allow. And right now, the GitHub app is installed on Slack. And in order to integrate it with the repository that I created, I'll use this command. So for that, I will create a new channel. And I want to call it GitHub. I really do, but for some reason it says it's already created. But I know that it's not created, but I'll call it the GitHub 2 for now. The name of the user is me, it's Lasirani, and the name of the repository is Power of Slack. And if I hit enter, it will ask me to connect to the GitHub account. Let's do that. This is the verification code. Let's go back and let's go to Slack and submit that verification code. We're good. Now we'll go ahead and install the GitHub app. And I don't need it for all the repositories, I just need it for the repository that I just created. And I will hit install. Okay, now that is being done. I can receive any type of notifications regarding that repository, whether it was like pushing a new commit, creating pull requests, issues, releases, deployments, almost all of GitHub related things. You will see them on this channel. So to demonstrate that, I will create a new file in that new repository, and the expectation is to see that on this channel. So I'll go back this repository. I will create a new file. I'll just type like hello world and commit. And if I went back, you will see that the repository was successfully created. Sorry, I mean the notification was received in Slack. And again, even if you create a PL and all the other notifications, you'll be able to see them here as well. And this is how you integrate GitHub with Slack. Now the third part is how to integrate that with Jenkins. So if you work at a company, Jenkins will already be installed, or you can use the marketplace. But I want to do things as free as possible. So there are two ways to install Jenkins. Either to install the WAR file, and for that you will need Java, or you need to run that as a Docker image. I will run it as a Docker image. So let me open the terminal. And let me go ahead and run this command. This will run Jenkins on port 8080. Let's go ahead and do it. Now while this is running, I'm going to clone the GitHub repository because I want to add the Jenkins file and make some changes there. I will also create a sample React app for that purpose. And let me go back to GitHub. Let me clone this first. And I will go ahead and go inside. I'll use Visual Studio Code, but feel free to use any IDE. Okay, so now we have app with only readme. I will install the React app as I mentioned. I'll call it Slack Power. And while this is running, I will go ahead and create the Jenkins file. Okay. And while this is being running again, let me go and use a sample hello world pipeline that I can use. So this is in the documentation. I will use the node one since this is a node app. I'll paste that here. And what else? Let's go to Jenkins. As we mentioned, it's running at localhost 8080. I'll put the password, it's in the logs, and this is only when you run it for the first time. Okay. Now, while we have some stuff that are running, let's go ahead and create the app in Slack. So I will go back to Slack. I will create a channel for Jenkins. I will click Add Apps, and I will search for Jenkins. Same process. And just a small disclaimer, Jenkins CI app is good for most of the cases, but you cannot have like full control. And for that, if you want like have like more flexibility and more stuff that you can do within the app, I would recommend instead of using the Jenkins CI, I would recommend using a custom Slack app. But this is outside the scope of this video. But just for simplicity, I'm using the Jenkins CI. So I will click Add and Add to Slack. And for the channel, I will pick Jenkins and add Jenkins CI integration. Okay, now I'm not going to create any users since this is just for the video. I'll skip and continue as an admin. Save and finish. And I will go ahead and start using Jenkins. Now, first things first, I will go to Manage Jenkins for two reasons. But let me go to Manage Plugins. I need to install some additional plugins. The first plugins that I want to install are related to Docker since I am running a Docker image in my Jenkins file. You probably don't need to install all these 6 plugins, but for simplicity's sake, I'm just installing all of them because I know that one of them is needed at least. So that's the first thing that I wanted to do. And once they are installed, I will go ahead and install the Slack plugin as well. And here I'm just looking at the React app. It's still being created, but I'm assuming it's almost done. And usually it doesn't take that long for the plugins to be installed in Jenkins, which is a good thing. Of course, if you have like jobs running, I don't recommend installing them like that. There's a way to install them after you restart. But since I don't have any jobs running, I'm just installing them immediately without restarting. Now this is all done. I will go ahead and install the Slack plugin. The name of the plugin is actually called, let's see, Slack notifications. Okay, so the Slack notification is installed. What you need to do is to go back to the dashboard and you have to go to Manage Jenkins again. And this is for Slack. You have to go to Configure System. And just a disclaimer, the documentation of this page is a little bit inaccurate. It tells you to go to some place called Global Slack Notifier, but this was changed in the recent Jenkins versions. If you scroll down, or actually I'll go ahead and search for Slack, the workspace is the subdomain that you see here. And you need to add this token as a secret text. I will go ahead and click Add, Jenkins, and in the kind I will pick secret text. And I will paste the secret. Then I will hit Add, and I will add the secret text that I just created. And I can pick a default channel, so I'll go ahead and pick Jenkins, since that's the name of the channel where I will be sending my notifications to. I will click Save, and now I will go ahead and create a pipeline. And for that, I will create a new item, pipeline. Let's name it Slack pipeline. And if I scroll down, I will go ahead and check mark GitHub hook figure and pull SCM. As a bonus, I will show you how to add a webhook so that the jobs run automatically after you push to GitHub immediately without manually triggering that. I'll show that in a second, but first let's integrate with Slack and make sure that this is done correctly. In the pipeline definition, pick pipeline script from SCM and choose Git, and it will ask you for the repository. So let's go back and let's copy that again, and let's go back and paste that in. And the branch is main, it's not master. And that's it. The name of the script path is Jenkinsfile, so this is correct. I will go ahead and save. And that's it. That's all you need to do. Now, there's one more thing. how to receive what is the message that gets sent to Jenkins? Is it something automatic or is it something customized? It's actually something customized. You can like put the build URL, you can put the user who built these jobs, you can customize the message as you want. Sending these notifications to Slack is something that you add in the Jenkins file. So I will go ahead and create a new stage. I'll call this stage send notifications to Slack. I'll add a new step, and that step is it's called Slack send. I'll pick an example from the documentation, and I'll pick this example. And if I'm not mistaken, it has to be in, I'm not sure, but usually when I see different examples, they are in parentheses. So that's what I'm going to do, but I'm not sure if it's something that's really needed. So that will post to a specific channel, which is Jenkins. Actually, one second. There is a syntax error. Okay, let's put it here. Now here I can put the channel which is Jenkins, but since I picked a default channel, I don't even need to write that. So this is optional, but I will keep it for now. And the message will be, it can be anything. It will say build started, and it will specify the job name, and it will specify the build number. Okay, and I think we will good with with the Jenkins file. Now this is something very simple. It will just run npm version. Dot get commits added React and Jenkins file, and I will push my changes. And of course, I don't need to mention that the GitHub channel sent me a notification saying that I pushed a new change. I will go ahead to my pipeline. I will trickle it manually just for the beginning, and then I will show you how to do that automatically. I will click build now. Hopefully there will be no mistakes, but like from my experience and like from most people's experience, usually when you type Jenkins script, they fail for some syntax errors or some other issues. This is very expected. Let's see. It's running right now. It says build successful. And if I went to Jenkins, I can see the message that is build started, the job name, and the build number. And here you go. That's how you send notification to Slack. Okay. Now how to add a webhook so that we build or run these jobs automatically. Now, if you have Jenkins on the cloud, this the step that I'm going to show is not needed. But if you have Jenkins locally, then you need to make that URL public. And for that, I'm going to use a software called Nujrock. It's very easy to install. I would have it installed on my machine. So that's the first step. So I will go ahead and I actually have it installed in the main directory, as you can see here. So I'll go ahead and run it. Since my Jenkins instance is running on port 8080, I'm specifying the port as 8080. Now, when you run Nujrock for the first time, you will get this and you will be confused. You just need to cancel the job and just run it again. I have no idea why Nujrock does that, but this is something that happens sometimes. So this is the URL, the public URL that is a substitution of the localhost 8080. So for example, if I copy this URL and paste it here, you will see my Jenkins instance and it will ask me to log in. Okay. I have to go to the dashboard and I have to go to manage Jenkins. Then I will have to go to configure system. If you scroll down, you will need to change this localhost to the Nujrock URL. Then click save. And then the only thing that you will need to do is to add the webhook to GitHub. So let's go to the GitHub repository. Let's add the settings, webhooks, and let's add a new webhook. And the payload URL will be the Nujrock URL or the main Jenkins URL, whatever that would be. And then you will need to add GitHub-webhooks. And just so that I don't have any syntax mistakes, I will copy this guy. So it's the Jenkins main URL / GitHub-webhook. I don't think it matters which one to pick, but I'll pick the JSON. And I will go ahead and click add webhook. And how do I know that the webhook integration worked? Once you add the webhook, GitHub is going to send a test payload to test that everything looks good. And if I went to the logs, you'll see that a post request was sent to the GitHub-webhook endpoint with stats 200. Okay, so everything looks good. And just to avoid any confusion, Nujrock logs are from bottom to the top, and I have no idea why it does that. Like usually you would think that the logs are from the top to the bottom, but with Nujrock it's bottom to the top. So this is the most recent one. Okay, this is the only thing. Everything looks good. I will make a minor change and I will push it. And the expectation is that I will see a new job triggered automatically. And just to make another cool change, I will change the color here to good. And that will make the color of the notification to green instead of gray. I will show you what that means in a second. Change notification color. And I will go ahead and push. Now, sometimes, especially at the first maybe 1 minute or two, the job doesn't get triggered automatically, but it will work eventually. So I just pushed. And as you can see, the job got triggered automatically without my intervention. And if I went to the Jenkins channel, you'll see the notification color is green. You can actually, typically what you would do is, you would have a post, not a post job, after all the stages are run. And if the jobs are successful, you will say, you would have the color as good. And then you would say like build successful. And then if something failed for some reason, you will set the color as danger, which will make the notification red, and it will say like, okay, the job failed, and here is the URL, etc. So you have a lot of power on how to send these notifications, whether the Jenkins job passed or have failed. With that being said, we're all good with Jenkins. We learned how to integrate Slack with Jira, with GitHub, and with Jenkins. I will go ahead and show you how to integrate that with Travis CI. So for that, I will open the Travis URL. Of course, you will have to create an account, but after you create the account and connect it to your GitHub, it will ask you to activate the repositories for Travis. So this is the first step. I will go ahead and click activate. For now, I will only activate it for one repository, but in your case, it could be, it's probably all the repositories. I'll pick the repository that I just created, and I will click approve and install. And while this is doing its stuff, okay, it's already done. But what I wanted to say is, you'll see that I'm showing you the token and the other stuff after this video is done. Before it's published, I will delete everything that I've done. So you don't need to. So of course, for security reasons, if you work at a company, you need to take security into consideration. Okay, so now this is activated. Now, what do we need to do? What is the second step? Actually, I will go ahead and open the same URL, which is the getting started URL. And I will go ahead and add this travis.yml file. And just to make things more realistic, I'll create a new branch. I'll call it feature. And for that, I will add the Travis YAML file. And before I even continue, I will add all the stuff that are actually let's go ahead and go to the Travis documentation. Add app. And I'll just copy this line right there. And here I'm seeing that the language is Node.js, and it asked me for the version. Now you will notice that in my Jenkins file, I'm specifying the version as 14. So I'll just pick the same version, which is version 14. And then how to integrate that with Slack. So I will go ahead and click Add Apps. I will search for Travis. Add to Slack. And for the channel, let me create a new channel. And let's call it Travis. And as you can see, the steps are very similar. And it's very easy. All you need to do is add these two lines of code. And that's it. It's that simple. Now, as this is done, now by default, the node job is going to run npm test to run our tests every time we push to GitHub. Like if we want to create a pull request, we want to make sure that all the tests are running and all the tests are actually successful. So will happen by default. Now, in order for this to actually work, my React app is actually inside the Slack power. So I will just copy all the stuff that are inside the Slack power folder and put it outside. So I will run copy, and I'm not sure if this will be correct. I hope it is. I hope this is the right syntax. Fingers crossed. So here, as you can see, I'm copying all the files that are inside that folder into the main directory. So that's what I was trying to do. It's already done. So there's no need for the Slack power folder. I will just go ahead and delete it. Okay. Now I think we're good. I'll go ahead and push my changes to the feature branch. Usually running git add dot is quite fast, but for some reason it was a little bit slow. And now I can see the reason, because we added a lot of node module changes. So it does make sense why it was that slow. Because there are tons of changes and tons of folders. That was probably not a good idea. But I will just go ahead and commit and say added Travis. That was probably not a good idea. So I'll go ahead and push. Oh, sorry, I have to say git push dash u origin and the branch, which is feature. Okay, let's go to the branch and go ahead and create a pull request. For now, I'll keep everything as default, and I will go ahead and create a pull request. And as you can see, it's actually trying to run the Travis job. And of course, we receive notifications in GitHub. So let's wait. Let's see how things are going. And as you can see, this is the page in Travis where our repository is at, and you can see details of what is actually going on within that build. So as I mentioned, by default it runs npm test to make sure all your tests are actually running successfully. And while they are actually running, just a disclaimer, usually you would prevent merging any changes until all of these jobs have passed. But then, since this is a personal project, we're not adding that much details to it. And since I didn't make any changes to the React app by default has only one class test, and it passes by default. It checks if this text is in the document, and it actually is. So if I went to the app.js, you will see that it's actually there. And the test actually passed, which is renders learn React link, which is the same test that we have in the app.test.js, as you can see here. So if I went here, I went to the Slack channel, you will see that I received notification for Travis. The builds were successful. Everything looks good. This is the build number, the branch, and then who made these changes. With that, this is how you integrate Travis with Slack. And you don't see this probably, but I actually do receive notifications through my email every time I add an app to Slack, or like for Travis, I actually just received an email about Travis. So you also receive email notifications sometimes for some of these Slack apps. Okay, so now we've done GitHub, we've done Jenkins, we've done Jira, and we've done Travis. The last one is Rollbar. And this app is going to send us notifications in case an exception has occurred, which is something that's very important. Like if your app is down or something went wrong with your app, you want a way to monitor your app so that you receive automated notifications in case some exceptions were being thrown in your apps. And for that, I'm going to use Rollbar for this demonstration. Let's go ahead and go to Rollbar. I will start by creating a new project. And I will just say, okay, of course, I will say Slack power, of course. Continue. And it will ask me what is the stack, what is the framework. I'll say React, continue. And it's very simple, which is something that's really amazing. It's as simple as adding this script, and that's it. And it's telling me to put that script inside the head. So let's go ahead and do that. So if I went to the public index.html, and they recommend that I put the script the first thing in the head so that I receive notifications for everything. So the more that you put it before everything, the more notifications that you will get, obviously. Okay, so I just copied the script and I pasted it here. And it asked me to test the installation. And to test that, I'm actually going to run the app. So let me run npm start. And what it asked me to do is just to run some random exception using the console, but it doesn't have to go through the console. Like any exception or error that gets thrown in your app, you'll be able to receive a notification immediately. So I will just right click, I'll go to inspect, I'll go to the console, and I'll run the exception. Once the exception is thrown, you will see that I will be redirected to a different page. And here you go. You can see that this is the exception. And if you went inside, you can see more details. You can assign it to someone like me, for example, etc. And you can see the logs. You can see the details. You know how it goes with monitoring apps. Now, how do I integrate that with Slack? Very simple. We do the same exact steps. We go here. Let me create a new channel for Rollbar. Create. And let's go ahead and search for Rollbar. Add to Slack. And here you will see that it shows me some documentation on how to add the Slack notifications. I will go to the settings. And something that I found confusing is that the description here seemed also but confusing to me. So I will go ahead and demonstrate to you because when I went to settings initially, I didn't see the notifications in here. But what you actually need to do is you have to go to projects and then go to inside your project. And from there, you will click notifications. then there are a lot of apps that you can integrate with. We're going to use Slack. Okay. Now I've done this before, which is to add a token, which is a very simple step. But since I've done it previously, before the video, I'll just pick this token and I will enable Slack integration. And it says no Slack integration were found. Let's see the steps. Yeah. So I'm assuming since I uninstalled the app and installed it again, it will not able to see the Slack channels. So I have to remove that token from Rollbar that I initially created. So I'll go ahead and reauthorize Slack and give it permissions again. Okay, so now I'm reauthorized. Now if I went back to the projects and I went to notifications, uh, sorry, if I went to the project and I went to notifications, Slack, and now I think it should work just fine. Okay, now let's go ahead and pick Rollbar and save settings. And that's it. It's that simple. So let's go ahead and uh, let's resolve that ticket that we have in Rollbar. So if I went to the dashboard, I went to my projects. Of course, you can see a lot of stuffs, but this is not the page that I was looking for. Items. Yeah, let's go inside that item and let's mark this as resolved by me. And as you can see here, I received a notification that it was resolved by me. And for example, if I threw a different exception, let's go back to the React tab. I'll say like hello world 2. As you can see, I received a notification immediately telling me that there's an issue, this is the exception, and then I can like assign it to someone, I can see. But then now you might wonder, why is it being assigned to me automatically? That's because the type of the error is actually the same. So Rollbar is a little bit intelligent when it comes to that. I'll go ahead and resolve it again, and you got the main idea. So that's pretty much it. That's how you integrate apps with Slack. I picked 5 apps that I hope that enjoyed integrating with. If you want, I can go into more details into these apps. Otherwise, next week I will post video that's regarding machine learning, something that is very exciting. Or if you want me to talk about a specific topic, you can also let me know and I will talk about it as well. Thank you very much and see you soon.